Hi, friends. It's Deanna Williston from Our Blooming Catholic Life, and welcome back to our series. We're addressing an article. Let me jump up here by Christine Schenk. When you look up her profile, it says that she is a sister of Saint Joseph. So she's really Sister Christine Schenk. I don't know why she wouldn't put that in her tagline on the article. I don't know. It's a column, of course, it's in the NCR, which is not a publication I normally read, but it came up in my feed. The article is the Eucharistic Revival an exercise in cheap grace? She never does exactly explain what she means by the cheap grace, but we've looked at the actual handbook for year 3 of the Bishop's Eucharistic Revival here in the USA. And we've looked at her article and tried to address some of the concerns. I brought in a lot of Franciscan teachings and other things, you know me. Let's see here. Okay, she says here, I have no problem with piety, devotion, and adoration. These sustain us as we work for the reign of God. Yet devotion is meaningless if sought for its own sake. I have literally no idea what she means there. Devotion, let's stop and look it up. I have a dictionary somewhere here on this phone. Let's look up. Oh, dictionaries are kind of whack these days, so it's probably a bit of a risk. Pretty sure I have a dictionary here. Maybe the dictionary got whack and Deanna deleted it. Really thought it was here. This is awkward. I don't know about you, but I hate it when apps change their little image. They do it with every update, and then I can't find them because I don't know what they look like. Oh my goodness, it must have gotten deleted. That's what you get for becoming woke, dictionaries. I have deleted you. Definition of devotion. I did type in the word Catholic as well. Let's see what comes up. Dictionary, devotion in Catholic culture. Let's see what it says. Devotion. The disposition of will to do promptly what concerns the worship and service of God. Although devotion is primarily a disposition or attitude of the will, acts of the will that proceed from such disposition are also expressions of devotion. Essential to devotion is readiness to do whatever gives honor to God, whether in public or private prayer, worship, or in doing the will of God, service. A person who is thus disposed is said to be devoted. His devotedness is ultimately rooted in a great love for God, which in spiritual theology is also called devotion. So it's a great love for God, which in spiritual theology is called devotion. So a great love for God. Now, what was she complaining about? Oops, wrong thing. What did she say? She said, devotion, yet devotion is meaningless if sought for its own sake. Devotion is meaningless if sought for its own sake. And what is devotion? A great love for God. How is a great love for God meaningless when it's sought for its own sake? That's awkward, right? She's using the Merriam-Webster definition, where it's a religious fervor, piety, an act of prayer or private worship, usually used in plural during his morning devotions. A religious exercise or practice other than the regular corporate worship of a congregation. Now here it says, another one, Catholic Answers, popular devotions. Devotion, in the language of the ascetical writers, denotes a certain ardor of affection in the things of God, and even without any qualifying prefix, it generally implies that this ardor is of a sensible character. Catholic Exchange, what it means to be devout. A devout person is then a person devoted to God, consecrated to God. There is no stronger expression than that of devotion to mark that disposition of the soul of a person who is ready to do everything and to suffer everything for him to whom he is devoted. The USCCB says prayers and devotions. For me, prayer is a surge of the heart, is a simple look towards heaven. It is a cry of recognition and of love, embracing both trial and joy. St. Therese of Lisieux, the Catechism 2558. It says Catholic prayers. God invites us into a relationship with him that is both personal and communal. Let's jump in that because it does talk about the communal, and she talks about that. He speaks to us through his Son, Jesus Christ, the Word made flesh. Prayer is our response to God, who is already speaking, or better yet, revealing himself to us. Therefore, prayer is not merely an exchange of words, but engages the whole person in a relationship with God the Father through the Son and in the Holy Spirit. I don't know, devotion for devotion's sake seems pretty valuable to me. Oh, I put my phone down because let's see if we can get back to her. Then she says, worse, I worry that our bishops are more interested in pietistic, I don't even know, spectacles than in facing inconvenient truths about Eucharistic availability. So she thinks it's too showy, the whole thing. Okay, well, we're now in year 3, which is the parish level, so I don't know why she's saying that now when most of the work is going to be in the parish level, like inviting people to your church. But so this is the whole point about Eucharistic availability. In the 1990s, 2 highly regarded U.S. demographers, Richard Schoenherr and Lawrence Young, projected that by 2005 there would be a 40% decrease in the number of U.S. priests, while the number of Catholics would increase by 60%. At the time, I was serving as the founding director of Future Church, all one word, whose seminal mission is to open ordination to all those called to it so as to preserve the Eucharist as the center of Catholic worship. Looking back, I will remember the optimism of those early years. Surely, we thought, by 2005, the bishops will come to their senses and put the Eucharistic and pastoral needs of the people of God first. We expected church leaders to open ordination and reform the clerical system. That did not happen. Centuries of entrenched all-male leadership, one that not only distrusted women, but apparently also distrusted men who loved women enough to marry one, would not easily change. Yet it was and is increasingly apparent that the Catholic Church desperately needs to expand those permitted to provide Eucharistic ministers to her people. So it's kind of funny that she's complaining about this whole Eucharistic revival, but then saying because of the Eucharist, we need to open the priesthood to women and married men. Goodness, that makes so little sense. I will say, because I feel like she's missing pieces here. She never parallels the fact that recent studies have shown how during this time, belief in the real presence of the Eucharist has plummeted, as well as people answering the call to vocations have plummeted. Could they actually be related? So she's saying, no. We need to get rid of these pious practices and spectacles so that we can focus of the Eucharist, so that we can have the Eucharist more. But she wants it on her terms. So she's saying she wants the Eucharist, but wants it on her terms. Let's see if we can find that. Can we find any statistics on that? I don't know. Awkward, but let's see here. Vocations and belief in the real presence. Which help if I could spell. I don't look as I type with my old people fat fingers. Okay. USCCB does have top 10 things to promote vocations. One is pray for an increase in vocations to the priesthood and consecrated life. Jesus says in Matthew 9:38 to beg the master of the harvest to send laborers into the vineyard. If we want more priests, sisters, and brothers, we all need to ask. 2, teach young people how to pray. Pope Benedict XVI said, unless we teach our youth how to pray, they will never hear God calling them into a deeper relationship with him and into discipleship of the church. Okay, both of these things. First is pray. What are we doing at Eucharistic revivals? We're doing a lot of prayer. Teach young people how to pray. And it says about they have to have a relationship with God first to hear him calling them into a deeper relationship. What happens at adoration? If you watched episode 1, I talked so much about vulnerability and building that relationship with God during time in Eucharistic adoration. So the first 2 points really already speak to Eucharistic adoration. What is 3? Invite active young adults and teens to consider a vocation to the priesthood or consecrated life. A simple, sincere comment should not be underestimated. An easy way to do this can be remembered by 4 letters. I, C, N, U. John, I see in you the quality. I see in you. I fell into that trap. I did not expect the USCCB to be so funny. John, I see in you the qualities that would make a good priest, and I want to encourage you to pray about it. It is a non-invasive way to encourage openness to a religious vocation. Again, the document, I had it in my hands here a second ago. The document by the National Eucharistic Revival on stage 3, it's available online. The whole last phase talks about inviting people back to church and accompanying them and building deeper relationships while at the same time going out in service to the community. How could that not help but inspire vocations? We're asking men to serve. We're asking women to enter the convent. Why? To serve. It's right here. 4, make it attractive. Show the priesthood for what it truly is, a call to be a spiritual father to the whole family of faith. Similarly, the consecrated life for a young woman is called to be united to Christ in a unique way and to be a spiritual mother to those she encounters in her life and service. The challenge for priests and religious is to be joyful models of their vocations. That's what they're doing with all these Eucharistic processions. They're showing their love of Christ and sharing it with everyone. And it's beautiful and it inspires people. Do you not watch movies of Eucharistic processions and you see the girls all in their white dresses throwing down the flower petals everywhere and you're like, I want to do that. That is inspiring young ladies to little girls all the way on up to consider entering life in a convent. That is part of what inspires young men. They see the priest being manly and leading his flock through the streets, through the hills. That is inspiring them to consider these vocations when they hear the call. It's beautiful. 5 is preach it, brother. Vocations must be talked about regularly if a vocation culture is to take root in parishes and homes. This means, first and foremost, people need to hear about vocations from priests through homilies, prayers of the faithful, and discussions in the classroom. Vocations kept out of sight are out of mind. This guide gives wonderful ideas on homilies on the Eucharist, and that same can be followed through to talk about vocations. So I would love if this sister was calling for that. Why is she not cooperating with the Eucharistic Revival and saying, oh, we can use that to really foster vocations? Instead, she is so focused on her singular purpose of her group, whatever it was, Future Church or whatever, trying to promote women priests and married priests. Why doesn't she open her mind to the fact of we need to support the young men who are hearing the call but have been shamed or are frightened or don't have that relationship with Christ that they even realize what's going on? This document is really beautiful. I read it cover to cover. It's really short. It's mostly pictures. Beautiful. Yes, we need to be talking about it more. I think she focused on this solution and just really didn't look further. Okay, for those considering a vocation, these are some tips for them. 6, practice the faith. I think a Eucharistic revival is a good place to do that. We all need to be reminded that the whole point of our lives is to grow in a deep, intimate, and loving relationship with God. This is the first step for any young person desiring to discern any call in life. Adoration, again, great place to do that. 7, enter into the silence. Silence is key. I really did not find this ahead of time. I love the Holy Spirit. Silence is key to sanity and wholeness. We can only hear the voice of God if we are quiet. Take out the earbuds of your iPhone, iPod, and iTunes and listen to God, the great I am. Young people should try to spend 15 minutes of quiet prayer each day. This is where you can begin to receive clear direction in your lives. So hard, friends, isn't it? Just to set down the phone and walk away. 15 minutes a day. So many of our ladies talk about, as adults, we talk about holy hours. and you get a young adult who wants to substitute, who wants to do it, and that hour can be very challenging for them, but 15 minutes may not be. We've also been talking in my parish about possibly asking those in retirement communities to pray for us. And again, that full hour may not work for them, but perhaps 15 minutes would. If we could get them, a certain number of ladies to pray 15 minutes a day, wouldn't that be lovely? So maybe multiply it, you'd have to do by 4. So 4 times 7. You'd want 28 women in your group. Is that right? 4 times 7? Yeah. I think it's right. Anyway, you'd want like 28 women praying for the parish. Then you'd be covered 1 hour every day. It's still like a holy hour every day, even though it's for women. That is such a beautiful practice, and I would just love to have the ladies, I say the ladies, it can be men too, praying for their local parish. And it's a great way to involve them in parish life, whether they're in the retirement community and they're very independent and can come and go, but even as they fall into the later stages where maybe they're bedridden, or maybe they just don't get off the retirement community as much. If they're praying the bulletin, they know who's sick. They know what the parish activities are. Maybe they're praying for your upcoming carnival. Maybe they're praying for your upcoming Rosary Congress. I don't know, but they can pray for your priest. They have the name of the staff members. It's so beautiful. Like, I'm so excited. I hope some of you are inspired to try that as well. Expand your parish programs. They're already praying for their priests and deacons and your bishops. Expand that out into the community. So exciting. Hey, that wasn't initially my idea. That was my priest's idea. Just saying. I'm running with it, but it was the idea of our pastor. Okay, be a good disciple. Some bishops say we do not have a vocation crisis, we have a discipleship crisis. Young people can become true followers of Jesus Christ by serving those around them. By discovering your call to discipleship, you can also discover your particular call within the church. Yes, get involved in parish activities, and those can be the food pantry, the prison ministries. Now you're going to say, yeah, I don't want young people shouldn't be going to prison. No, but couldn't they make up packets of magazines or small snack samplers, whatever your local prison allows you to take in? There's no reason the young adults can't be collecting those things to send in. They could be doing that, organizing, writing a little note, something, right? Totally don't sign your last name to that. You want to keep child protection safety protocol in, but there are totally things that young adults can do that aren't just, okay, there's value in picking up trash around the parish, but there's so much more that our young people can do. Maybe some of them like to cook. Could they help out on the bereavement committee? Could they help make casseroles for the soup kitchen? Could they help develop some kind of great new recipe for the fish fries? I don't know. There are some great things. Also, for the community fish fries, maybe they could do a fundraiser to raise some money to allot free tickets for some people to come in and eat. And you could give those out at the food pantry as well. Then those people could have a free ticket to come to one of the fish fries during Lent. There's so many great ideas that do involve the parish, that do involve service, that do involve also a relationship building process within your parish, within their community of people, their age group, but also maybe some older mentors, as well as being close to that adoration chapel, or at least the Lord in the tabernacle. They can always start out there in prayer, 15 minutes of prayer, then they can go to the kitchen and bake their casseroles, or then they can go to the narthex and put together their bundles for the prisoners, whatever. But they can have that 15 minutes of adoration first, and then go do their activities, and then have some kind of fellowship. Maybe they even go out for dinner together. I don't know, but we can build those opportunities. That is going to help them discern their vocation when they have a full and rich Catholic life. What is 9? Ask God. Ask God what he wants for your life, and know he only wants what is good for you. If in fact you are called to the priesthood or consecrated life, it will be the path to great joy and contentment. Let young people know that. 10, in the immortal words of a famous sneaker manufacturer, just do it. If you feel that God is inviting you to try it out, apply to the seminary or religious order. Remember, the seminary or convent is a place of discernment. I will tell you also, Holy Apostles College and Seminary up in Connecticut just announced that they have a house of discernment opening up. What? So you may want to contact them as well. You will not be ordained or asked to profess vows for many years, providing ample opportunity to explore the possibility of a call to priesthood or religious life. So we can start encouraging that. Did Future Church try all of these things first? I don't know. There was a breakdown of Catholic culture and a breakdown in devotion to the Eucharist, and I think that is where a lot of the breakdown in vocations came from. And then it's so funny, instead of going back and seeing what helped vocations flourish for all those years and reinvigorating them, they said, let's throw all that away and start a new model. Let's not do that. It's so funny. We have a crisis in the modernist sisters have a crisis in vocation, but the traditional ones are flourishing. And then nuns are saying, the very modern sisters and nuns are saying, well, what we need to do is we need to become priests. If women could become priests, how, when you have a dearth of vocations to become religious sisters, why do you think there's going to be this amazing surge in women hearing vocation to the priesthood? I think you may have a big novelty rush of women trying to get in and be the groundbreakers, and then that novelty is going to wear off. And because they are modernists to start with and don't understand the theology of the body and that the maleness of Christ and maleness of God the Father matter, they're still modernists, and it's going to drop off just like the vocations to be a modern sister dropped off. That one is just my opinion. I just don't see it as being sustainable. The modern view of nuns has not worked out. It's a failure, ladies. It's a failure. Go back to your convents. Go back and spend time in adoration. They are destroying so many of our contemplative orders. It's not going to work without them. We need them. Jesus showed us that. I pointed that out again in episode 1 of this, the first half. What happened when Jesus was stopped by, Mary and Martha and Lazarus' house for dinner? What happened? Which sister did he say chose the better part? It was the one who was adoring him. What did Jesus say at that other big meal when the woman broke open the jar of perfume and used her hair to wash his feet? She used her glory and her expensive perfume to wash his feet. What did the disciples say? That could have been better spent in the poor. And Jesus said, no. No, actually, that's not true. So I'm just saying, ladies, let's choose the better part. She just goes on and on about how we need women and married priests. She calls it an unrelenting shortage of priests. Then she talks about the solution. The easy solution has been to shrink the number of parishes to fit the number of priests available. I agree that is a horrible choice, and that does not work out at all. What it's doing is you're squeezing people into these larger and larger churches, and it's no longer the neighborhood church. It no longer has the community, and without that community element, again, it's not going to foster vocations. But as well, you're not getting that community. You're not getting the deep relationships because the people don't necessarily live near each other. They're not like an organic community to start with, and it's very difficult to do. We all know people who have traveled long distances to get to like a Latin Mass. And Latin Masses, when they're local, I've seen such vibrant and amazing communities. But when the people are already traveling an hour, it's like an hour and a half for Mass, and they have to go back home an hour, they're not really having that time to fellowship. They're not going there in the middle of the week for a Bible study. It doesn't build the same level of community. So I'll give the people that point who have made that point. But the answer again is I don't think to cancel the Latin Mass. Instead, it should be offered more places so it is available locally. And I want you to look at, again, where are those vocations coming from? There was a great fertility of vocations coming out of those more traditional parishes. And so we actually should be fostering that. Instead, they have canceled them. So they're cutting off vocations. It's almost like it's becoming at some point to look like a manufactured deficit of priests. They're there. They're available. We could have them, but they're actually cutting them off at the knees and stopping them. They're saying, it's like they're looking around saying, whoa, where are the most fruitful places? Let's destroy those. It's like, wait, what? Small communities, we all know that. It's a Catholic principle of subsidiarity. The small communities are where we're the strongest. We need the small communities, small local communities. That's where it's at. Catholics have always known that. You can go back to the Bible, read the Acts of the Apostles, read the letters. Small Catholic communities, that's where it's at. That is what builds us, because we can build these deep relationships that we're calling for. That is where it's at. And so we really need to see how we can strengthen the small local communities. It's challenging right now because of the dearth of vocations. There's no way out other than doubling down, though. There's nothing. It then talks about how many lay ecclesial ministers are women. And like, please don't make me go into the category of the Eucharistic, whatever, the extraordinary ministers of communion. Please, let's not go into that, ladies. Like my eyes instantly twitching again. No. You at the same time you're talking, screaming, social justice warrior, we're not doing enough for the poor. But also, we just want to give communion and preside over the Mass. I'm like, why don't you spend some time adoring the Lord, get filled up, then go out and do some social justice? Yes, surely. Invite those people in to become part of the community as well. You don't just go out and do something nice and not invite them. You have to invite them. That's part of the mission of Christ, is spreading the kingdom. It's not just a material kingdom. It's more spiritual than material. And so we need to go out and do that. I think it's easier. And it's just so funny. She's talking about the priests having this big show of piety in the Eucharistic processions. That, to me, is what's going on with Eucharistic ministers. I'm sorry, I have a lot of friends who are Eucharistic ministers, and I also have a lot of friends who used to be Eucharistic ministers who have seen that it's not the way to go, that it is not reverent, their hands aren't consecrated, they shouldn't be touching the Lord, they shouldn't be handling it, and maybe they should be servant leaders and step back and serve the church in a different way. And so again, I think so many people like going up there. They like standing in front of the church. They like being the one to read. Some people, it does flow out of devotion, but for a lot of people, it's all about that show and standing up there. It is. I'm sorry, it is. And so I invite you to really reconsider that, and instead spend your time fostering vocations so that we have the deacons. I really wish they would bring back minor orders as well. And then we would have people for all those functions, but who have the training and the service and the prayer time. They are required. Deacons are required to pray the liturgy of the hours. Why? Because they need to build that relationship with Christ. Eucharistic ministers, lectors, they're not required to do those things. Why? Because it's not. Sorry. I know at some point the sister goes off on Sacrosanctum Concilium as well, and I think she misrepresents it. She does pull some quotes out. Let me see here. It was, looks like we're going to be on a 3-parter, friends. Let's jump over there and make that a 3-parter. So this one I really wanted to talk about ways that we can focus on vocations. The first one was more about the parish model for year 3 of the Eucharistic Revival. Episode 2, which you just watched, was more about vocations. And in 3, we're going to, let's get into some Vatican II documents and see what they really said and how they relate to this Eucharistic Revival and our crisis in vocations. Friends, may God bless you and keep you. May He make His face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. And may the good Lord bless you. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.